It is what it is.
That's toxic positivity, Jern. Brushing off things that are bothering you with it is what it is.
That's a trigger word.
I want that tattooed, though, in a smiley face.
What? It is what it is. Well, like, yeah, you can't really change your situation, but you shouldn't negate how, like, makes you feel like butthole, then it makes you feel like butthole. And it is what it is. If it is making you feel like butthole, then it is what it is. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Welcome back to another episode of Sometimes Ciabatta Slaps.
I'm Mac.
I'm Jubes.
And today's episode is all about toxic positivity.
If you haven't gathered that from the little blurb.
Yes. For the start, we're going to do the catch up because we had a blast this last weekend.
We sure did. It was so fun.
It was really fun. Again, the looks, walking when there's like 13 girls with like colorful wigs on.
Oh my goodness.
Hilarious.
Okay, I like made the mistake of going into the bathroom at the restaurant we were at, and there was like 6 13-year-old girls in there, and I was like, my tall heels, my pointy boots, my loud dress, and
Jern
my
was
like
the tallest one. Like, we're the same height normally, but your heels were taller than mine.
I had
So
like
Jern,
4 or 5 inch heels on.
Jern was like 6'3" with a blue hair.
Literally a bright blue wig. I was just serving looks.
Yeah,
I've never felt so judged.
yeah,
I was like, oh, hi. But then I was also like,
yeah.
say what you're thinking. Say it out loud, I'll fight you.
Say it to my face.
Do it, I dare you.
I'm bold enough to go out in public in a blue wig.
I'm literally 10 years older than you. I will fight you and win.
I go to the gym.
I work out.
But no,
Yeah.
like for real, it was really fun. Like the first night we like went out to just like a bar in Banff area. And then the next night was the wig night.
It was so fun. We went bowling. Which is sweet.
Annihilated.
Oh my
everyone
gosh.
bowling.
It was actually really mean. Michaela's just like bowling so perfectly. I'm like, stay on the lane, bowling ball. Don't go in the gutter.
Listen, I don't even know what happened because like my first like 3 or 4 throws, trash. Absolutely trash. Gutter, maybe 1 pin. And then for the next like every time I went up to bowl after that, spare, strike, spare, strike, spare.
Well, I was so mad I didn't get a strike. I always at least get 1 strike every time I go bowling, but I didn't this time. It was upsetting. But every time you would bowl for one of the other girls, she'd like come back from the bathroom and be like, wow, Michaela makes me so good at bowling.
Did she say that?
Because she was like, she's like, oh, like I think I need to go like call my kids again. Like I think they need to go to bed because my score's getting pretty low. And I was like, actually do it. And then she actually had to go to the bathroom, and I was like, yes. And she came back and like doubled her score.
Yeah. Actually, one friend, she kept like, she's like, can you bowl for me? I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
Like, who doesn't want to bowl more? I feel like bowling's one of those things where I could just stand at the lane and just throw balls all night.
Right? It's so fun.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know why, but our team took so long. Like the other team went through 2.5 games.
Well, we had one more person.
That's true, but it shouldn't have made us
that
only
much
get
delayed.
through 1.5 games, right?
I know. We also had like the bride who was like the center of attention, right? So we had to be distracted to take photos or do whatever.
Lots of photos and
like
we're
there was
just kind of hanging out.
Exactly. But yeah, it was like the bride's mom she was not having it with me. She was on our team as well, and she's like, what the heck, Michaela?
Literally. And then she'd like turn around and be like, you guys need to get off your phones, we need to finish this round.
Yeah, I know. Loved it.
I was like, okay,
yeah,
I'm at 5%, just give me 1 more minute and it'll be dead anyways.
It's fair though. I understand why.
Yeah,
it's the competitive side.
So funny.
But I think it's really because she wanted me to get out of first place.
Well, literally. And then she was like, Journey, you gotta bowl fast. Like, I want to get to my next one. I was like, okay. So we just like spit fired like the next couple ones and just like sped through them so that she could get like her last one. It was so funny.
Yeah. I was quick. The only time I was like slow was when I got the strike, and then it's like it wanted me to bowl 2 times more or something. I was like, okay.
Oh, really? It doesn't just say like your turn's done after the strike?
That's what I thought.
That's normally what happens.
That's what I thought. But I think it might have been also the last round of the first game or something when that happened.
Maybe.
But either way, I had to like bowl 3 times. And so it was like, I was waiting for my thing to change. And I was like, nope, still wants me to go again.
Well, that takes up the most of time. I'm like, I'm rushing. I'm like, yeah, but it has to reset the pins. So it's going to take a minute.
Exactly.
Oh, well.
But regardless, so that was fun. And then had a little, I don't know, got one for coffee the next day, which was really, I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. That was nice.
So, I don't know, it was just 4 of us, but it was fun to.
It was pretty fun.
Just sit outside.
And it was kind of nice, even the night before, when we just like sat at home and just like played games, right? Like we all played Incoherent, and it was just like, just a vibe. I was like, that's awesome. Like, quality time is my love language, and we were just spending time together, and I was like, this is so fun.
Well, because like some people want to go out, and like I get it, but we went out the first night, and everyone was kind of like tired the second night, and I just kind of wanted to just like hang out and chat with everyone. But
and we had to get up early the next day anyways.
Yeah, it was up to the bride though. I really like left it open ended. I was like, whatever you want to do, we'll do. But
it's like, you just let us know, like,
but
I'm your
glad,
party.
I'm glad we just kind of went home and like put on pajamas and had like a little game night kind of thing.
Yeah, we still didn't go to bed until 2 a.m. But
no,
it was nice.
Because we cleaned up and then chatted.
Yeah, Mac and I sharing a room together, we're just up until all hours, just blah, 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 blah. And like the first night we were talking about how the yin yang of the house.
Oh, the feng shui. We were roasting the feng shui of the B&B.
We were like, oh my gosh, there's so much. Like, money is leaving this place because there's like stairs up into the house, and then you open the door and there's immediately stairs up. Yeah, which is hilarious.
It's like this household's gonna have struggles, to live there, and the chi is flowing out of the house.
Literally, it was so funny. We were just like, yeah.
Also, the condo we had 7 floors.
Dude, it was insane.
So to climb up to the top, we had to climb 34 steps.
Literally, it was 44.
Was it 44?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what
that's what I thought. I thought she said 34.
Yeah. No, I think she said 44 one way.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, and so by the time you get to the top, Journey's like moaning, she's like, my hamstrings, and I just like, she's like, you gotta run, just gotta run it, it's easier. Gotta run it out.
Because Bryce took me through like his, he has like 2 different leg days, like one's glute focused, one's like hamstring focused, and so he took me through the hamstring focused one, and he just like made me do like the hamstring curl one like so much, and I was so mad at him. And then I like walking up the stairs when we got home, he's like, you didn't go hard enough because you could still walk up the stairs. And then the next day when I was freaking crawling up the stairs of the Airbnb, I was like, fuck you. I cannot go up these stairs.
Because we got put in like the attic.
Literally.
Which I'm not mad. Our room was really nice. We had the best view in the house.
We had the best view of the house for sure.
Because like our balcony looked directly over the 3 Sisters in Canmore, and it was phenomenal.
It was amazing.
And then our bathroom was the biggest, and so some of our friends from the basement came upstairs to get dressed with us.
Yeah.
Also, I needed my friend's help to braid my hair because otherwise...
Yeah, somehow we got Michaela's entire mop into a wig.
A 12-inch wig.
Yeah. I was like, it was an impressive feat.
Because, if it goes to... If a 12-inch wig goes to, like, my jawline, that means my hair is, like, over 24 inches long.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they measure from the very top. Like, whenever I think about how long it is, I think about how long it is past the shortest point that I could ever cut my hair. Mm-hmm. So I don't ever think like, oh, like from the very, like from my scalp, my hair is this long.
So my head is 12 inches long.
Okay.
And then the rest of my hair down to my butt is at least, it's like over 12 inches probably.
Yeah.
And so getting like, I don't know, we'll say 30 inches of hair into a 12-inch wig.
Literally.
Miraculous.
It was amazing.
There was 3 small bobby pins and like 20 large bobby pins.
There was a lot of bobby pins. And then you just like, because it didn't look bad. Like you couldn't see the bobby pins. Yeah. But you'd like touch Michaela's hair and it would just be like pokey.
Yeah. Pokey and bumpy.
Like, oh, and then there was like an air spot or something on the top. It felt like a fontanelle on like a newborn baby. It was just a little spongy.
Because the wig was so tight, because my head is huge. And the wig was already like tight as it is. And then shoving all my hair into it was a mess. Mm-hmm. Everyone's head was itchy at the end of the night. Mine wasn't because it wasn't even touching my head.
And like,
but
it
left like an air gap of where it was like pulled tight between like the back of my head and the front of my head. And so there was like a spot on the very top of my head that was just like, you could pressure down.
Oh, your skull bones haven't fused yet.
It would bounce back up. Yeah. It was fun. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a blast. It really was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it was good. That being said, our topic today, toxic positivity. This is a topic that I hold very close to my heart.
Another one of Journey's passions.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Our topics go like from a back and forth of like my passion project to Journey's passion project.
This one's been on our list for so long. I'm like, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because it's just a fine line, right? Like, yeah, we'll get into that.
I feel like I have to check my socks now before every episode because the last week's episode, my socks were committing a crime.
I definitely did. I was like hyper aware of what socks I put on this morning. I was like, I need to make sure they look good on camera.
Yeah. Well, because I was like, it's a crime. Like, I didn't even, like, when I put those socks on that day, I didn't realize how thin they were, how many holes there were in them.
Worn out.
I didn't feel it at all when I was wearing them. And I looked back on the video and it was just like,
yeah. And I couldn't even crop it out because then it would have looked like really funny.
Bombastic side eye. Criminal offensive side eye.
Literally. I'm wearing East Coast Lifestyle socks. Like style socks. What's the bottom look like? Filthy. I need to mop my floors. Don't judge me.
All right, so we'll get into it. So, Jubes, start us out. What is toxic positivity?
Okay, toxic positivity is the belief that no matter how bad the situation is, that you should keep a positive mindset. And like, this is generally a good idea. And we usually talk about like just being positive and like all that fun stuff. But what sets it apart and makes it toxic is that it rejects all the difficult emotions I have in favor of a cheerful and usually falsely positive kind of facade. In flavor.
Who wants some bland positivity when you can have some flavorful?
Yeah, we're here to talk about spicy positivity. That's a good one.
That positivity.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And so, like, the problem with that is that life isn't always positive, right? Like, there's ups and downs. And so there's going to be painful emotions and experiences. And it's so important that you feel those emotions and, like, deal with them so that you can, like, achieve this greater acceptance and, like, greater psychological help. Because it's not good for you to constantly be ignoring every single bad thing that happens to you.
Yeah.
And so it kind of... like, toxic positivity is kind of like a trauma response because instead of feeling shame, you act in awe of your deepest self. Instead
of feeling shamed about yourself, you kind of like act in a way of like, no, nothing can ever be wrong. Like, it's the opposite of like self-deprecation. And so it's a way of avoiding difficult emotions instead of facing them head on. Like self-deprecation would be like, oh no, I can never do that. And I'm horrible at this and I'm horrible at that. Toxic positivity is kind of like the opposite where you're like, wow, I'm so good at this. I got through everything. I'm so resilient. Positive mindset, hustle, grind. Like, yeah,
the grind and like hustle mindset is also very toxic because like there are bad days. There are days when you can't grind or hustle. Like, yeah, it's important to like be ambitious and like take initiative and like do all that stuff. But you need to recognize that not every day is going to be a good day. But that being said, you also shouldn't go to the other end of the spectrum and just focus on everything that's negative because then that's also toxic.
So our favorite word comes up in this scenario and it's
balance.
There we go.
Balance.
But yeah. And I really want to like, I guess we'll get into it. So who coined the term of toxic positivity?
So toxic positivity began in positive psychology. Shocker.
Which, like, side note, I get why positive psychology is a thing. I really do. It was the most boring psychology class I've ever taken in my life.
Yeah, I believe it.
Because it's all everything's like rainbows, butterflies, happy. We're happy. And I'm like, well,
yeah, it's like it's interesting to play like to see the effect of like chronic positivity, I guess we could say, how that affects, like, it does change your brain, right? If, like, you're chronically positive or you're chronically negative, right? Like, those will affect how your brain works. But, you know, and there's a fine line. We'll get to that.
As someone who's, like, I don't know, I'm pretty optimistic. I'm fairly, like, easygoing and, like, everything's going to work out for me, and I know that.
Yeah.
And so I kind of live my life with that way of, like, everything's going to be fine. I know everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so for that token, like, I find people who are chronically negative so hard to be around.
Well, it's exhausting.
But it's the same token, though. When I see people who are chronically positive, I'm like, oh, you're hurting.
Well, it just feels false. Like, it just be like, that's not how you actually feel. Like, you're using that as a mask.
And that's why immediately for them, it's not, I'm not like, oh my God, you're annoying. It's like, oh, you're hurt.
Yeah, it's like, in what way can I help you?
Yeah, it's like, what haven't you processed? Like,
literally.
Immediately, I'm like, oh, you are like a poor little traumatized puppy.
Well, literally, you need to feel other emotions than just happiness in order to process.
Yeah.
Like, your trauma, like, just everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, it began in positive psychology, which is focused on one's search for happiness and contentment. And so after World War II, mental illness diagnoses were on the rise, and positivity was thought of as a possible solution. That was actually really interesting to read. Well,
because again, it comes from the premise of like, if you think happy thoughts, you'll see happier things in your life, right? And so after being war struck, it's like, no, remember when things were good and we were all children and playing on the playground was fun?
Well, you just had World War I, the Great Depression, World War II.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a lot to process, right? So like,
yeah. Okay, and then so in the 1950s, one of positive psychology's early advocates, Abraham Maslow, wrote that psychology has been far more successful on the negative than on the positive side. He then started to open up a broader conversation around happiness rather than grief and trauma, which quite a few researchers were focusing on at that time, again, due to the circumstances around that time.
Yep.
And then in 1954, he wrote a book titled Motivation and Personality, which focused on how positivity can unlock a better understanding of human potential, which is true.
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about, right? Like, being optimistic about your life and feeling motivated and ambitious, it's going to take you to places that you want to go to.
Exactly.
Right? It's going to get you there. But on the same token, right, if you're having a bad day, you're having a bad day.
Well, and I feel like there's a difference between like optimism and toxic positivity. Because like with optimism, you can be like, okay, like it's shitty right now, but it's going to get better. But it's the recognizing that it's shitty right now that moves it from toxic positivity to optimism.
Like even yesterday, like the day before, I was like so motivated, so much energy, like hustling, bustling. Yesterday, I was like, I'm wiped. I need a nap. Right?
Yeah.
It's recognizing that without like tearing yourself down.
Yeah.
And
well, even like this morning, I like had a really bad sleep last night and I was just kind of grumpy this morning, but I was like, don't let this mood be your whole day. Like, I was feeling really like anxiously triggered for some reason. I was like, okay, what the heck? That's weird. And so I was trying to like work back into like why that was, but still like recognizing like, hey, I feel grumpy right now, but like I'm recording with Michaela. We're going to record another super fun episode after this. So it was like, I can't let this ruin my day. But
otherwise you're going to have to hear your like sour attitude on the microphone.
Otherwise, this episode is going to be not that fun to edit.
Just going to be editing me like, why was I so sour?
Like, geez, Journey, calm down. Yeah. But yeah, right? Like, I don't know. I feel like the thing that turned that into not toxic positivity, I also just ate. And so that helped a lot. And I had a shower. So that helped, and I was kind of like, "You're fine. It's okay." Anyway,
yeah.
Go ahead.
You want to do the next one?
No, go ahead.
Okay, and then so it wasn't until later in 1998 when the field of positive psychology was officially established by Martin Seligman.
I think it's Seligman. Seligman.
Seligman.
It's Seligman. Seligman.
The game we were playing, it was what's it called? Incoherent. And so basically it gives you like the mumbled word. You have to guess what the phrase is.
Yeah.
And I would just say the mumble like
just a different
accents every time, and it worked out for us when we finally figured that out. But
if the word was like Seligman, she'd be like Seligman. Everyone was cackling. It was amazing.
Seligman. Yeah. Say Ligman.
It was so good.
Seligman.
Officially established by Martin Seligman.
He had a epiphany. An epiphany. No.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Just like does that.
Oh no! I'd stop that so fast. There's no chance.
Anyways, our boy Martin had an epiphany while he was weeding his garden, and his 5-year-old daughter started dancing around and throwing the weeds in the air, and he yelled at her to stop. She told him that if she was younger, she would have whined about it because she was older, she was choosing to listen. This made him wonder if everyone is capable of this kind of control. If his daughter could change her tune so quickly, why couldn't adults too? So his conclusion was that the only way to move on from the quote unquote really bad stuff, depression, helplessness, and panic, was to recognize the missing piece or the positive.
And like to an extent, that's true.
Yeah.
But also if I was this kid, I would have been real sassy about like, I'm choosing to listen. Like it wouldn't have been like a positive thing. It would have been like, I'm choosing to like, I'm doing this as a favor for you.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Well, like, yeah, if I started dancing around and like throwing weeds in the air and I got yelled at to stop, I think I would just like side-eyed and walked away.
Yeah.
Because then I would have been sour because I've been like, why you gotta be so aggressive? Like, again, that seems like that's on Martin.
Well, yeah, it's like, what? Like, why couldn't you have just been like, hey, like,
she's just being
you
playful.
can't do that, you're making a mess.
Yeah. She's just being playful. Why would you just yell at stop?
Yeah.
Explain it.
Or it's like,
or you're gonna get a side eye and walk away. You're gonna get attitude the rest of the day. I promise you that much.
Oh, exactly, right? I was such a smartass as a kid.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why couldn't you also be like, okay, honey, like you can do that, but when you're done, you need to rake up all the weeds that you just spread all over my nicely weeded grass.
Yeah.
Or garden or whatever.
Yeah. So of course this like description, I mean, we weren't there with Martin and his daughter.
Who knows how many times he asked her to stop, right? Before he yelled at her.
Yeah. But if it is like the way this is worded, if it's like you're weeding, she's playing, she's 5, right? Kindergarten age.
Yeah.
You let the 5-year-old play.
Yeah.
You don't yell at them, it's working time.
Yeah.
Tisk, tisk, tisk. Like, piss off.
Literally. Like, no, thank you. It was, that was 1998. Okay.
Yeah.
In my mind, this happens in the 1950s.
No.
Okay, that makes way more sense. Anyway.
No, this was 98. Like, let the kid play with the weeds. Like, and let kids be kids. But then you have to, again, here's the whole boundary part of it. If you talk about like, okay, yeah, that's great. This has to be cleaned up afterwards, though. Go crazy.
Yeah.
But
you're not leaving my garden
here's
like this.
Here's the repercussions of crazy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have to actually like make sure that they do clean it up or there will be consequences or whatever, right? Like
yeah. Yeah.
And so toxic positivity's re-entry into society happened in 2020, which is not that surprising.
Well, it's just with the whole like we're all in this together. Like, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
Respectfully, we're not.
We're incredibly divided and it only got worse.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that was like people getting mad at anyone trying to find a positive in this thing. Like, I don't think it was necessarily like, obviously, yeah, there was some toxic positivity happening within that. However, I don't think that was the main issue. I think they were just using it like not as like a scapegoat, but as like, allow me to wallow in self-pity.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Like, that sounds extremely harsh, but you know what I mean?
No, but there was a lot of like, again, helplessness and whatever, because it's, some people it was scary. Some people it was annoying. Some people, again, their livelihoods got ripped underneath their under the rug. What's that phrase? Ripped out from underneath them.
Yeah.
And again, like I was super like optimistic or like beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
I just started getting back into the gym. I had plans to go and visit my friends in Europe. And then it's like, actually, you're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, why not? And then you see riots happening. And I'm like, why is there so much hate spreading on right now?
So much was going on in 2020, right? Like you have the BLM movement and like COVID. And so it's like.
But how much of that was triggered, like not just from George Floyd? How much of that was triggered from already feeling like helpless and then suddenly finding something you're passionate about and then wanting to like rebel against feeling helpless? Because at that point, people were already locked up for a month.
Yeah, I think so.
A month, 2 months in some places.
Yeah.
Depending on where you were.
Well, it just gave them an opportunity to express their outrage with how everything was happening. And like, yeah, I get that. But, and that's the thing with toxic positivity where it's like, you can't just get mad at someone choosing to be positive because you are unhappy. Right? And I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah. And I think a lot of like the riots during that time, I think the reason everything escalated so quickly during that time is because people were feeling trapped and helpless.
100%.
And so they found something that they could feel helpful for. And then the opposite was like, no, piss off. You're not allowed to
You can't have feelings about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's where the whole, like the insane riots happened. That's where all the looting and the extremes came from, is because everyone was like already like, hey, this sucks. And then the government's like, we're all in this together, but they're enforcing division.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it was just like, you need to listen to us. Like, we're not being heard. Like, this is such a stressful time.
Yeah.
And you're killing our citizens. Like,
so all
and
the
not helping us.
Yeah. And so like all the riots, in my opinion, were actually about the event that took place. It was all like a form of release. It was less about the event that took place and it was more about feelings
in
otherwise.
a sense. Like, I agree with you in that they wanted their voices to be heard about a bigger issue that's been ignored for so long.
Yeah.
And it definitely didn't help that everyone is already in a really scared, uncomfortable spot with COVID.
But I don't think the riots would have gotten to the point they were if it wasn't for that uncomfortable spot.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's protests. Protests happen all the time. But the intensity was because of this uncomfortable, uncertain spot.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, everyone's hackles were kind of like raised. And so it's like, it was just like it was
about the event, but it was less about the specific event and more about the preceding circumstances to then having that happen. So you're that much more emotionally reactive, and that's why you're so willing to like go to the streets.
Well, I just don't want anyone to think that we're belittling the death of George Floyd and all of the Black people and people of color who died during that time due to these things. Like, whatever.
No, I'm not talking about the movement itself. My opinion on the movement itself is like completely separate. I think I'm talking about
it might not have escalated so much had we not already been in a super stressful environment. And
then having like higher authorities be like, no, it's fine. Everything's good. We're all in this together. It's like, no, we're not.
We're not.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why everything escalated to the point of it was, in my opinion, because everyone was so emotionally on edge.
Yeah.
During that time.
Yes.
And so when you have someone preaching, we're all in this together, and then people are like, actually piss off. And then that's when the division really happened.
Yeah. That was kind of the start of the divide. Okay, so now we got that little rant out of the way.
Yeah.
What does positive or toxic positivity look like and sound like, Michaela?
So when something bad happens, such as losing your job, people may say, "Wow, it's almost like we planned this or something."
Oh, weird.
No.
Did I write the notes?
No. No. That rant was like unrelated, but it also it's like the whole concept of just being like, well, here we are. So like losing your job and someone says, just stay positive.
Yeah.
Immediately your defenses go off and you're going to be like, actually, kick rocks.
The wall goes up immediately. You're not going to hear a thing I say. You're not going to respond the way I want to. I'm going to leave feeling unvalidated and unheard.
Yeah. And so the pandemic's a really easy example of that because everyone was like, actually, kick rocks.
Well, yeah, because so many people were like, yeah, like just stay positive. Like look on the bright side. Like,
yeah. And so these things. So while these comments are often meant to be sympathetic, they can shut down anything the other person might want to say about what they're experiencing. And so that's where this whole not feeling heard and et cetera, comes from. Right? And so after experiencing some types of loss, people might say that everything happens for a reason. While people will make such statements because they believe they are comforting, it's also a way of avoiding another person's pain.
Yeah.
I am that person that says everything happens for a reason. But I have this one example of friend came to me in high school and she's like, I just lost so-and-so and you've dealt with a lot of loss. Like, how do you deal with it? And that was my response. I'm like, well, I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And she immediately lost it on me.
Yeah.
And she's like, you think so-and-so dying was for a reason? And I'm like, well, something has to come of it. Like, for me, it's comforting because it's like, it gives me the like release. Like, it's not on me. It's not on them. It's not on any one person that this person died. Death is just part of life.
Yeah.
And whether you get a lesson from it or not, it's whatever. But if this person was like, my grandma just died, I'd be like, well, everything happens for a reason. That's where it becomes toxic.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, if you want to hear more about that debate, we have a whole episode on like coincidence versus everything happens for a reason. And both of us are very much like, yeah, everything happens for a reason. But like in the time of grief, we know better than to be like, okay, well, everything happens for a reason. Like you were offering advice. It's not on you that she got mad that that's how you get through it. Like
you come for my advice and then you get mad at me the way I grieve. I'm like,
well, yeah.
I'm like, no, it's not fair. Like nothing's fair, but like, I'm not choosing fair. I'm choosing like, it's got to be for a reason, right?
Something good has to come out of this.
The reason doesn't have to be super profound. The reason could be cherish your time with loved ones. That's been my main reason.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a reminder of how short life can be.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's been like, go see your doctor yearly, because one of my grandparents' death was because he didn't see a doctor regularly.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't need to die the way he did. And it was what it was.
Yeah.
Again, it's another one of these phrases here they say, like, it is what it is. But in some cases, that's what it's going to be. Like, I can't change that.
Yeah.
It becomes toxic though when you're like diminishing and subsiding the other person's grief. Like,
yeah,
you can go like this, that sucks, but
yeah,
here's what helps me if you care.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and even like if someone's like expressing disappointment or sadness, this happens to me quite a bit, is that someone may respond that happiness is a choice. And so this suggests that if someone is feeling a negative emotion, it's their own fault for not choosing to be happy. Yeah, I've got many thoughts. I will share none.
But where some of these, like, it's not even like the words themselves in these statements per se, like, because like the statements themselves are, again, very similar to things that we preach. It's more about like the tone and the timing and the situation that they're expressed. Yeah. Like I said, if Journey's coming to me being like, oh my gosh, I just lost so-and-so, you've dealt with a lot of grief. Like, how do you deal with people? Or how do you deal with grief? Yeah. I would say something along the lines of, it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Right? Like, that's what's comforting to me. But I'm not going to be like, turn off your emotions, swallow them, bottle them up, literally create a disease in your system. Like, it's
the same kind of thing as like going to someone and being like, oh my goodness, I have an issue. Can I talk to you about it? And like, yeah, like, do you want advice or do you just want to rant? Yeah. A lot of times when people are coming to you with like sadness or loss or whatever, they don't want you to solve that problem or whatever. They just want to be heard. They just want to be validated. They just want to know like, okay, I'm allowed to feel these things. I'm allowed to be sad that so-and-so died. I'm allowed to be sad that I lost my job. Like, yeah, it's, yeah, right? And so, like,
I've started explicitly asking people if they want my opinion. Yeah. Because so many times where it's like, I don't do the navigation game anymore. Like, anyone who knows me or who's coming to advice for me knows that I'm not going to play any sort of games with them. Right. And so and this just comes from a history of having to be the whole, like, someone coming to me and being like, me just listening and then being like, are you going to say anything? Yeah. Like, do you want me to say anything? Yeah. Or vice versa. I give an opinion. They're like, actually, shut up. And I'm like, you know what? You just tell me if you want me to say anything or not.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, with you especially, like, you're so well-intentioned when you do give your opinion. Like, I want the best. Like, I can see what you need to do to make this better. Like, I know what you need. And, like, that's the same with toxic positivity. Like, a lot of time it is well-intentioned, or, like, some people just don't know how to be empathetic, or, like, they don't know how to deal with these negative emotions, which that's kind of, like, a cycle where it's, like, you don't know how to deal with these negative emotions, so you never process them because you never accept them, so you're always positive.
Yeah. It's a distraction. That's where the whole trauma response comes from, right?
Yeah. But it's, like, I forget where I was going with that, but, yeah, it's just, like,
well-intentioned people and me.
Yeah. You come up with such good intentions of it, but like, yeah, not everyone wants to hear that in that time. They just want to be validated. Yeah. Of like, oh yeah, no, that was really hard for you. Yeah, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's even the thing. Yeah. Like, here's when I talk about tone, and I already know I need to check my voice sometimes because I sound abrasive at times. I know people come to me and I'm like, and I might be listening, but I'm processing, or I'm like actually trying to think of a solution, or like, what can I give that's going to be beneficial? Yeah. Because otherwise I'm going to sound fake.
Well, and that's why we need to be a video podcast, is because we need to see Michaela is actively, intently listening and not just going, yeah. Because if we were strictly audio, our first 10 episodes would just be me talking to Michaela going,
yeah, because I'm really shit at being vocal at times.
But you're just thinking, right? Like, you're just like, I need to give a verbal response to show you that I'm listening to you, but I'm also thinking, right?
Well,
like,
I'm also trying to avoid being superficial. And so again, for both, or being like, that's why I couldn't be toxically positive, because I'd be superficial.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I'd feel very like hypocritical and superficial, and just wouldn't work for me. But same thing, I can't, when someone's like chronically negative, right? And I'm going to say this example because I've had more experiences with those type of people in my life rather than toxic positive. Yeah. People who are chronically negative and coming in like everything is shit, and they have to be a victim, and they want to come for your advice, and then they ignore your advice, and then they tell you you're the problem. And I'm like, actually, kick rocks. Like, I don't care anymore. You're going to do what you're going to do. Yeah. If you want to be miserable, great. Keep me out of it.
Well, the amount of people I've removed from my life for being like that, they're like, oh my goodness, I want your advice so much. And then I give it, and they're like, yeah, I'm actually not going to do that at all, and I'm going to continue down this cycle. And I'm like, then I'm going to remove myself from your life.
Yeah. And like, not to diminish our topic for today, but those people who are chronically negative are going to call me toxically positive.
Yeah.
Just because I see the world with an optimistic lens. Right? I think you are in control of your own life and you are the driver of your own life. Things can happen to you, but you control how you react to those situations.
Yeah.
And that counts for like everyone. And you are ultimately responsible for how you feel about these situations, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to say, no, that sucks, like, then it sucks.
Well,
right?
yeah.
But if you want to confide, if you confide in someone who never feels emotion, then that's when you're going to really experience this like toxic positive scenario. And sometimes you have to confide in these people because they're, I don't know, family members, relative, like these are the only times, some really close friends, if you don't really have any other friends. And if you're forced to confide in someone with this, that's where it can really get difficult. If you're like, I'm having a bad day and they're like, everything is fine. And
yeah, well, it's the whole thing of like, okay, if you want to live your life through like a positive light, like lens, like nothing bad ever happens to me, I feel so good, blah, 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 whatever. That's fine for you. Don't make me feel like shit for not doing that. When I come to you saying, oh my gosh, my life is falling apart, blah, 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 whatever, you need to like that's your life's choice. Yeah. It's not mine. Yeah. So don't force that on me.
Yeah. Right. And it's the whole is the forcing part of it, right? Because if you go to someone and they're like, everything's good, life is fine, and you're like, maybe I don't want to confide in you anymore, then you know that for next time. Well, yeah. But if you're forced to confide in that person for whatever reason, whether it be again your employer or your parent or your significant other, right?
It sets up a wall, and you don't have that close relationship because you're like, I can't come to you with anything other than I'm happy, life is great. And even when I do that, it feels false, you know, like it's weird.
And on the same token with this, again, these chronically negative people that I'm in my life, whenever I was having a bad day, I wasn't allowed to have a bad day. They wouldn't listen to me for the same thing. Yeah. And I was like, actually, like, how many times did I say kick rocks?
You don't get to monopolize on bad days. Like, they don't just belong to you.
I like that. You don't get to monopolize on bad days.
We have so many good title contenders in here. Yeah. Okay, so with that being said, some signs that you might be toxically positive include brushing off problems rather than facing them, hiding your true feelings behind feel-good quotes that seem socially acceptable, minimizing other people's feelings because they make you uncomfortable, and shaming other people when they don't have a positive attitude. This is not a comprehensive list. Like, this isn't every single sign.
Some other things are like, hiding, masking your true feelings, trying to just get on with it. We already said minimizing people's experiences, telling someone like, oh, it could be worse. Yeah. Right. When they're experiencing something that like sucks for them. Yeah. Shaming or chastising others for expressing frustration, and then brushing off and saying it is what it is, but
is what it is.
Again, as someone who literally wants to get it is what it is tattooed on herself.
But you're not necessarily like, you don't do it in a way where you're like brushing them off.
Yeah. That's why I think it's less about the words and it's more about the intention behind the words.
Yeah, the tone and the context and like the relationship you have with that person, right? Like if we're doing like the whole like you, me, and Alexa joking about trauma or whatever, we're like, oh, like, haha, it is what it is. But like we're making light of it, but still like we know we felt those emotions. We know that we're dealing with it. Like, yeah.
Or like, I don't know. I mean, well, our relationship, right? A lot of that, you come to confide in me with a lot of things, right? And so if one day you came to confide in me about relationship issues and whatnot, I'm like, is what it is.
I'd never come to you with anything ever again.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Or if it'd be like, it could be worse.
I'm like, yeah.
But if that's if that's what you open with, and of course people, again, this goes back to the conversation prior where it's like walls go up, division happens.
Exactly.
Because suddenly you don't want to talk to that person ever again. Yeah. Right?
Well, it's the whole thing, like, even with this starting in 2020, I feel like that was also the kind of movement of like, hey, let's validate feelings. Like, let's start like, not necessarily like gentle parenting, but like that realm, like respectful parenting or whatever it's called. Just like validating emotions, telling people like it's okay to feel not good all the time. Like, don't let it consume your life, but like, and I don't know. I feel like we just kind of started also a movement of like, let's start validating some people's feelings.
And that's where we kind of touch back in on the hustle culture. A lot of, what's the word? Influencers, I guess, in the hustle culture life. It is this toxically kind of positive individual
Yeah.
And again, with a lot of these people that are in that world that I see, I'm like, oh, you're hurt.
Yeah.
Like all I see is pain.
Mm-hmm.
When people are talking about, I'm so great. My life is fantastic. I'm a multi-billionaire and I love my life. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because loudness, like the volume it speaks volumes, right? Well, insecurity is loud. Mm-hmm. Confidence is quiet.
Well, even with the whole, like, with like our karate mantra of like, never ever give up. Mm-hmm. Yes, 100% never give up. But hey, if you need to take a beat to get your feet underneath you, that's not giving up.
No.
Even with addiction, like addiction recovery isn't linear.
No.
If you relapse, that's not you giving up. Like if you still then strive to like get back on the road to recovery, like it's just a little, not to diminish people who are recovering, like, but it is like you're still not giving up if you're continuing to go forward. Like if just because you need a second to get your feet underneath you doesn't mean you failed completely.
You can have setbacks, you can have go into quicksand, but you can get out of it, right? And like continue as long as you're not, again, just keeling over and becoming this, again, I can't not talk about toxic positivity now without saying chronically negative people. You become chronically negative and you want to victimize yourself over everything. The world is happening to you and not for you.
Yeah. Then
you're going to be miserable the rest of your life. I'm sorry. Like that's
well, exactly, right?
And it's the whole mindset comes into play.
Yeah.
Right. But same with the toxic positive. You're going to be chipper and happy and never cry a day in your life. Again, coming from someone who doesn't cry often.
Yeah, but it's not, you don't ignore the feelings that make you want to cry or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Like,
but that's where you are so hurt and you are sacrificing the fullest human experience.
Yeah.
In my opinion. If you're going to be like, life is happy. It's like
I'm like fairly certain that's one of the things. That's actually a sentence. When positivity is used to cover up or silence the human experience, it becomes toxic. That's when positivity turns into toxicity.
Yeah.
Right? And so then we have some other signs that you might be on the receiving end of toxic positivity, which include feeling guilty about being sad, angry, or disappointed, hiding or disguising how you really feel, and trying to be stoic or get over painful emotions.
And that's where you can kind of see like the man's man kind of has that stoicism thing. And I get where they're coming from with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, confide in someone.
Well, how much of toxic masculinity is just toxic positivity but covered up?
I know.
Just with a little testosterone sprinkled in there. Like, right?
With a little testy on top.
You know, but like it's the whole thing. Like cherries. Men don't cry. Men don't have cherries.
Cherry on top.
Oh. Yeah, it's the nut on top. Ew.
I said the testes on top.
Ew. Okay. Oh,
but men don't cry. I'm sorry or you're welcome at the same time. A little bit of both.
My mind is in Dakota. Okay, yeah. So yeah, like we've kind of said, like tone, huge. Context, I'm a 12-year-old boy. Journey. Okay. I did that. I did that with my sister. We're going into an uncomfortable situation, and I had to just kind of pump myself up. So I was like, ma, and she just died. She like keeled over laughing so hard. She's like, that was amazing. Okay, so when does positivity turn toxic? Like we said, when it's used to cover up or silence the human experience, it becomes toxic. The way Michaela phrased it was just chef's kiss.
I didn't even read that. That was all from my brain.
I know. I was like, wow.
When I can speak, it's wise. When I don't speak, it's funny.
When you failed through that sentence.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. It's toxic when it takes positive thinking to an extreme. So it minimizes and denies any trace of human emotions that aren't happy or positive. It's toxic when you are coping with tough situations, and it's almost cruel to be told that you need to look on the bright side. Like if you're going through a ginormous trauma that you already don't know how to begin to process as it is, being told, oh, just look on the bright side.
Yeah. To be told. Tell yourself, you're like, I'm strong, I can get through this is one thing. And that's the type of positivity I think you need in that moment.
Even like telling yourself, okay, like just look on the bright side. Just look on the bright side. Like trying to help yourself get through this.
But it should be your thought, not imposed.
It's your prerogative. Yeah. And then some people even consider toxic positivity as a form of gaslighting because it creates a false narrative of reality, which causes you to question what you think and feel.
And I think that primarily comes up in the workplace. And that's where I have a bone to pick, is in the workplace. Because you see it with some bosses. Again, not all bosses, not all workplaces are equal.
Yeah.
Disregarding that. Kind of jumping back to quiet quitting a little bit. That's why quiet quitting, I think, has become a thing, is because you feel the lack of appreciation. And part of that comes from the quote unquote gaslighting of like, I hate my job. I hate my boss. Like, I'm doing more than I'm getting paid for, but I'm expected this because why? Like, for what?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And the boss is like, everything's fine. We're good.
Yeah.
Stay chipper. We're like family here.
Literally.
And that's,
we're like family here is such a,
and that,
yeah.
That's where it kind of becomes like the gaslighting toxic positive, or toxic positivity kind of realm. And where, yes, you do have the ability to leave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It might be hard to see that in scenario in the timing, but you at the end of the day, it's where you create your own reality that we think we really missed in quiet quitting, because we were so new to expressing things on the internet.
Heated in that episode.
Yeah. But you have the ability to leave at the end of the day, or you have the ability to try to make your scenario better. But what we're talking about is in the way, like, when there is nothing you can do, when you haven't quite left yet, how are you going to cope with that? Or how are you going to talk yourself into just finding a better scenario for yourself?
Well, exactly right. And like, it's one thing if like there's things going on outside of work that are then affecting your attitude at work. Like, I feel like that's a different place. But like, when it is the work environment that is causing you to be negative and like sour and whatever, then I feel like it's that point where it does kind of fall to the responsibility of the employer to kind of like make sure, have conversations. Like, if you notice that your employee isn't doing well, have a sit down.
Yeah.
Like, or ask them.
Yeah. If you ask them and they are honest about it, don't disregard that.
Yeah. Don't then be like
you're,
it's okay. Like,
scenario, employer goes, hey, how's it going? Employee, oh, I'm kind of stressed right now. Employer, oh, well, why? Like, it could be worse.
Yeah.
That would be the exact thing. And so employee then is like, why the fuck would they talk to you?
Or even if like,
they have no reason to.
If you have to take time off for like funerals or whatever, and then you come back and they're like, oh, well, you just had 3 days off. Like, why are you stressed? It's like, well, you don't know what happened to me in those 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you don't know what's going on outside of work, right? And you don't want to word vomit your personal life with your work life necessarily, right?
Well, yeah, because like some places that you don't want to do that. But yeah, there definitely is. There's things you could do to make those a little bit better.
Yeah. But I think that is like the main situation where I find it the most frustrating, because then you know that those types of employers are going to be like confused why they have a high turnover rate, or confused like why isn't everyone just happy? Like, well, maybe it's you. Yeah. Respectfully, it's you. Yeah.
Like, you need to kind of do some reflection there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, with that being said, like, toxic positivity can also be a coping mechanism. I feel like we kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the episode. And so it can serve as a coping mechanism to help people reduce or avoid stress. So rather than face a difficult emotion, people try to avoid it by putting a positive spin on a bad situation. And this might sound like a good way of coping, but when we deny or dismiss negative emotions, it can make it more difficult to then cope with these emotions either later on in life or even like in the moment. Like, you can bottle it in, like it causes like disease or whatever. Like, if you never address this, then you can never kind of move forward, I guess.
Yeah. Shouldn't hold on to those emotions. 6 seconds.
Yeah. Let it go.
Yeah. And that's, I think, why some people get so heated over people who are positive, who can just let it go, right? Because if you are, again, wanting to chronically negative, like, this is not the title of what we're talking about, but I can't, my brain keeps going back to it. Yeah. You're going to hold on to that, and then you're going to think someone who is just, like, normal positive is, like, now toxic because they're not feeling the same way you feel, and you want them to drag them down with them. With you. That's it. Yeah, well, exactly, right? The same thing with toxic positive. If someone's sad and they're like, I'm better than you because I'm happy. That's like not any better either. That's not it. No. I guess just to reiterate, I guess some of the whole points, why is toxic positivity harmful? It's shaming at times. It can make you feel belittled or less than the person that you're supposed to be confiding in. Yeah. For, again, whatever reason, whoever that person is. Yeah. Or it can cause guilt. It sends a message that you aren't finding a way to feel positive in the face of tragedy. You're doing something wrong. Again, as we said earlier, avoids authentic human emotion by sidestepping emotional situations that make them uncomfortable, which is part of the human experience.
Yep.
Prevents growth by denying things that we feel painful. We deny ourselves the ability to face challenging feelings and ultimately lead to growth and deeper insight. And there have been several studies done looking at how suppressing feelings leads to more stress in our body and or difficulty avoiding the upsetting feelings and thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So there is a physical manifestation of toxic positivity, I guess. Mm-hmm. So in one study, research participants were divided into 2 groups and shown disturbing medical procedure films while their stress responses were measured. And so one group was asked to watch the video and let their emotions show, while the other group was asked to watch as if nothing was bothering them. And so the participants who suppressed their emotions had significantly more psychological arousal. And so even though they appeared calm on the outside, they were actually like really stressing out on the inside. Mm-hmm. And the participants who were allowed to show their emotions were able to kind of like process what was going on and kind of like deal with it. Like they weren't just keeping it inside. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of interesting. And so like these types of studies show us that expressing a broad range of emotions, having words that describe how we feel and facial expressions to emote help us regulate our stress response. And so like, as we've talked about many times before, suppressed emotions can manifest in anxiety, depression, or even physical illnesses later in life.
Mm-hmm. Well, like even a couple episodes when it talks about how even Botox, like numbing your frowning muscles in your face, mm-hmm. People report that they're happier. Yeah. Because they can't see that physical like emotion in their face anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's what that link is, and it kind of ties back to the same scenario. Well,
and even just so much of it is like it is a release. Like something mm-hmm. I'm trying to start to do is like when you manifest something, being like, okay, I accept that. But when you're done with something and it served you or whatever, you just don't want to be like, okay, I release that. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, this is just a physical form of release.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yes. And so then the last kind of like harmful aspect of toxic positivity is like, if you've ever been around like a sugary sweet, like just think happy thoughts kind of person. And so like, you just don't feel comfortable like talking to them about the emotions that you're having.
Because again, it doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah. You know, they're not going to hear you or make you feel validated. And so even though they might have the best intentions, the message they're mindlessly sending is only good feelings are allowed in my presence. Mm-hmm. So it makes it really difficult to express anything but like good vibes around them. Mm-hmm. And so then you're only allowed to be a certain person around you. You can't be yourself around them mm-hmm. because the person you are accepts that you have bad days and isn't chronically positive, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this versus optimism, it's possibly optimistic in the face of experiences and challenges, but people going through trauma don't need to be told to like stay positive mm-hmm. To still have a sunny outlook at the end of it.
Yeah.
And versus manifestation, sometimes manifestation can be a form of toxic positivity in the mm-hmm. sense that if you're manifesting things and they're turning out, but then not turning out for someone else, it's like, oh, but I did it and you didn't do it.
It's just like you need to believe harder or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of manifestation is mindset, and you don't need to be insanely positive in order for good things to happen to you.
Well, an example with the like manifestation as a form of toxic positivity is like walking up to a homeless person and being like, just manifest a home. Just write mm-hmm. it down on a piece of paper every single day and then you'll just magically get one. Like that's what happened for me.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's condescending.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have some tips on like how to avoid toxic positivity, whether you're the one being toxic or you are receiving the toxicity. Mm-hmm. And so this one, to me, it's one of like my most important things that I'm really trying to work on, is it's to develop an attitude that it's okay to not be okay, and to remind yourself that if someone doesn't feel okay, that's perfectly acceptable. Mm-hmm. You should manage your negative emotions, but don't deny them. Mm-hmm. Focus on listening to others and showing support. Be realistic about what you feel and know that it's normal to be stressed, worried, and or fearful. Again, fine line, like don't let it consume your life.
Yeah.
Balance.
Our favorite word. Balance.
Hashtag balance. Don't be afraid to challenge the person being toxically positive. Mm-hmm. Setting a boundary. I guess that is what that could be referred to as. So know that it's okay to feel more than one thing. You can feel nervous and hopeful about something. What?
I guess that's setting a boundary. Journey says nervously.
Like, oh shit, I need to learn how to set boundaries. Hashtag balance.
What else is new? We're working on it.
I just
Yeah.
bought a balance book, but it has really heavy religious undertones. No, yeah, Dad says one. Know that it's okay to feel more than one thing. You can feel nervous and hopeful about something.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, like, you can feel like it's a bittersweet, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
bittersweet is an okay emotion. Like, you can be sad that you quit your job because, like, you liked working there, but also, like, happy because that stress is now gone, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Look for meaning behind what you're going through. Apparently, tragic optimism or searching for the meaning behind difficult situations is the opposite of toxic positivity and is considered by some to be the antidote to toxic positivity.
So apparently that's what I have then. If
You're
that's
just
the thing.
tragically optimistic.
Well, like, again, the whole, like, everything happens for a reason. It is what it is. That would be my version of tragic optimism.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this sucks, but there's something more to it.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn
I would
as
agree
we
with
kind
that.
of heal.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that makes sense. Put your feelings into words. So, like, write in a journal or talk to a friend. Both of these things can help lower the intensity of negative feelings, as long as your friend isn't toxically positive.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of friends, like, when you're talking, you're having that connection, you are releasing oxytocin, which is hormonally calming the brain down.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like your connection. That's where the importance of having quality friends is. And
Yeah.
all of that comes from, like, who you attract and all self-work and
Yeah.
our entire podcast. Just listen back on every episode.
Exactly. Do you want to give us some non-toxic alternatives to toxic statements? So, like, we have a list here of, like, a statement that's, like, considered toxic positivity and, like, another way to kind of say that, but validatingly.
Yeah.
I guess.
So, like, instead of saying, don't think about it, stay positive, say, describe what you're feeling, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Don't worry, be happy. I can see that you're really stressed. Anything I can do? Failure is not an option. Failure is a part of growth and success. Everything will work out in the end. It's really hard. I'm thinking of you. Positive vibes only. I'm here for you through both good and bad. If I can do it, so can you. Everyone's story, abilities, limitations are different, and that's okay. With that particular sentence, though, I feel like if you're having, like, a speech of, like, how you accomplish something, I feel like you can put that in there without being condescending.
Yeah.
But it's, again, tone, context, who you're talking to.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Delete negativity. Suffering is a part of life. You're not alone. Look for the silver lining. I see you. I'm here for you. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes we can draw the short straw in life. How can I support you during this hard time? It could be worse. That sucks. I'm sorry you're going through this.
Yeah. All accepting and validating statements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are some good, like, validating alternative statements to toxic positivity statements. And some other things is that it's important to sit with your feelings and give yourself the time and space to process the situation and accept your emotions before you take action. I've talked about this a lot of, like, even just, like, naming what you're feeling can help you accept it and move on, kind of.
I think one of my favorite things is, like, Journey's advice is, I feel today. Sometimes I have feelings. I exist.
Yeah. Literally. Know what you're feeling. Just accept it.
I'm feeling good today. No, I feel today.
Yeah.
I am human. I exist.
Oh, amen.
I've been going through all of our, like, old clips and stuff, and I have that one clipped from whatever episode that is. And so it's been, like, fun, like, a little, like, trip down memory lane, like, as I'm going through our reels to put them on YouTube Shorts and stuff.
That's sweet.
I get to listen to every one of our episodes that I've clipped.
Yeah. Well, even just, like, like, speaking your emotions, like, you can then move them out of your body. So by honoring your feelings, you can embrace your entire self, and you just become more connected with your inner self, right?
Yep.
Let it
go. Let it go.
We love Elsa.
Process it and kick it out the door.
Literally. Oh my gosh. So when we accept emotions, sit with them, and kind of watch them come and go, they end up passing more quickly because we're only supposed to feel emotions for 6 seconds. So once you know how to process them and deal with them, you can actually feel them for only that 6 seconds.
And this is where a lot of people find meditation helpful. So something to consider.
Yes. Yeah. So that's basically all we have, other than, like, our kind of final
thoughts. Got anything?
I think that it is important to have a, like, mostly positive outlook on life, but you cannot negate the negativity. You can't belittle that and ignore it, because that's only going to cause more issues later in life. And same if you only focus on the negative and you never focus on the positive, you're never going to live up to your full potential and do all the things. But that being said, it's important that when people come to you, to validate their feelings and listen to them and support them in what they are trying to tell you. But yeah,
I think a lot of this topic becomes more crucial, especially if you're raising a child, for example. Like the development side of this is more important. I think as an adult, it is your responsibility to take the world as is. Yeah. And you can't be quote unquote triggered by every single thing that someone else does and someone else believes. Yeah. But if you're raising a child, for example, showing that like, yeah, this sucks, but like good things will happen or good things are going to come. Like the good outweighs the bad or whatever you want to use. I think that's when it becomes more important. Or again, if you're processing and realizing like, I can't confide in this person because they are toxically positive to me and that sucks, but I'm going to have to confide in someone else. I think that's where you become like in charge of your own life. Yeah. Whereas I'm not denying that this is a thing. Same thing, like, again, with the whole pandemic, like what sucked about it is that the people we were supposed to depend on were just kind of disregarding.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's why everything escalated the way it did, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's like children act out to get their parents' attention, right? Like
same thing. And so if you're an employer and all of your employees are miserable and or quote unquote like acting out in the way that you can at work, talk to them. Literally, open communication. We're all adults, right? Don't disregard someone else's experience just because you don't like the way they think.
Exactly.
Especially in a workplace scenario, right? But just have like basic human respect and know that things are going to work out, and you're allowed to feel like garbage one day, but as long as you don't
let it consume
cripple yourself with it, and use it as a crutch or try to drag other people down. It's fine.
That should be fine.
Oh, okay. And so that's all on that. We want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Do you like, this is something when I was doing some research for this, is like, do you find that we're preaching toxic positivity? Because I know that we are very much like advocates for positive mindsets, but
because we've seen the science behind it with when we're talking psychology and we're talking physiological reactions to feel good stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
But yeah, so or are we allowing space for like other emotions other than just happiness? Because I really hope that we are. Okay. So, with that all being said, I guess for our segment today, we're going to leave you with some advice. What's your first advice, Michaela?
Don't be so negative.
Thank you. I'll follow that up with, there's a silver lining.
Just be grateful for what you do have.
Just be optimistic.
Good vibes only.
Hashtag good vibes only. Like we've said many times throughout this episode, look on the bright side.
Discomfort is the price admission to a meaningful life. You'll get over it.
Everything will be okay.
Stay positive.
Oh my gosh, amen. Don't give up. Never, ever give up.
You're already doing better than so many others.
Quitting is not an option.
Tears are for losers.
Holy cow. Chin up 24/7.
And finally, work harder and things will all work out.
And with that, I'm seeing red.
I'm Mak Jubes.
I'm Mak Jubes.
We are sometimes Ciabatta Slaps on all social media platforms, and our website is sometimesciabattaslaps.com. If you like what we're doing here, or if you just like us, give us a like, a rating and a review if you're feeling extra generous.
Ooh.
It helps us out, and we appreciate it deeply. And
yeah, we'll
we got some fun episodes planned up.
It should be good.
Oh,
what?
Are we gonna do sponsors? No, we're gonna do ads now.
We're gonna do ads now, yeah.
Okay. we got some fun stuff up ahead.
Yeah.
And
we hope Mental Health Month is treating you well.
My birthday's on Friday. Wish me happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Mag. We've been celebrating her birthday month.
It is. I have to share my birthday day with like so 7 other people in my life.
Yeah.
So I get a month.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. That's only fair.
Only fair.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys later. TTFN.
Bye.
Bye.